Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I got a very stupid question. The question was, does Mapstruct support, can Mapstruct also be used with Gradle instead of Maven? So I took that stupid question and then I rephrased it a little bit just to make it a bit more interesting. And of course, it's not a stupid question. I'm just kidding as usual. Feel free to comment all your questions. You don't have to filter them first. And this question was definitely not filtered. So I rephrased the question a little bit to, can we use Mapstruct and also Gradle and Kotlin? So then we have a little bit more to talk about, because of course it is possible to use Mapstruct and Gradle. Gradle is just the dependency system that is being used. And of course, if you want to use Maven, you use Maven. And if you want to use Gradle, you use Gradle. Gradle comes in two different versions. You can use Gradle with Groovy, or you can use Gradle with Kotlin. And to make it a bit more interesting, I use Kotlin for this video and this example right here. So I've created a new Spring Boot project by pressing File, New Project in IntelliJ, and then I chose the Spring Initializer. Then I chose Kotlin instead of Java, and I chose the Gradle Kotlin. The Gradle Groovy, that is the default if you want to use Groovy. And then I chose the Java 21. And then I chose Next, and I added the web module right here. I added the Spring Web. I added H2. I added Spring Data, JPA. Yeah, and that's it. I also try to tinkle a bit with Lombok, but you don't get much value for it, and actually it has some problems actually. So I would not recommend you to use Lombok along with Kotlin. Just enjoy Kotlin's the Kotlin concise language without Lombok. You don't need it, because a lot of the things that you would use Lombok for actually is part of the Kotlin programming language. Yeah. So how do you enable? How do you use Mapstruct? First of all, you need to know that this KAPT, this is the annotation processor. Or you don't need to know it, but it's nice to know what you actually have in your Gradle file, right? So this is the annotation processor. And of course, you need the annotation processor to be enabled in order to use Mapstruct. Then you have your dependency, and it's actually quite simple. You just add two dependencies right here. One for annotation processing. That is why I just explained to you what this KAPT is. So one for annotation processing. That means that when you add an annotation to a class or a method, then you would also get Mapstruct's features enabled when you add this line right here. The other line right here, implementation Mapstruct, that is so you can actually add the annotation itself on top of your class and on top of your methods. It's called functions when it's Kotlin, but yes, so that's why you have two. One for handling for actually creating the class files when it's compiling, and one for actually knowing that you have these annotations on top of the class or function. So, and here you have this KAPT section right here where you can actually place some configuration if you want to, and yeah, there's some documentation on what you can add. But you can add something like default component model Spring if you want to do that. Yeah, so feel free to do that. The rest is just default. I've not added anything there. That just came from Spring Boot's initializer. So that is just out of the box. I've not touched that. Yeah. So that is my project, and of course then the video will be done here. But let us actually see it in action, of course. So since we're using Kotlin, then there is some things that we need to know. I have my Mapstruct mapper right here, spoiler alert, and of course it works, or we will test if it works together. So we have a alien DTO. It takes an alien entity, and then it converts it into an alien DTO. So this is if you are used to Java, then of course you would have the type first instead of in the end. But when you're used to Kotlin, then you have that in the end, and you don't have to have any semicolons if you don't want to. It just makes much more sense actually when you are coding Kotlin. It's just much more fun. It's difficult to explain why, but it's just it just makes sense on another level than Java. I really like Java also. It's not like I don't like Java. It's just like it's just more fun when you are playing around with Kotlin. It has so many shortcuts and things that you can just do with Kotlin. Yeah, okay, so let us go to the entity. I've created the entity as an alien entity right here. I have a lot of annotations right here. This is actually some of them are Lombok, getter, setter. I'll delete those right now because it actually, I disabled it. So I'll remove the constructors right here. What is important is that if you want to use Mapstruct, you cannot have, you cannot use val, you have to use var, because what Mapstruct actually does is it uses the default constructor without any arguments, and then after that, then it goes and then it sets each property one by one. And that's just how it works, and you can actually see how it works if you go and search for the impl class, and we will actually do that in just a minute. So, you have you're creating you're creating this interface right here, and then you just define the methods that you want to convert alien DTO to an alien entity to an alien DTO. And the other way around. And then Mapstruct is so smart, it will actually say, okay, the fields here are named the same, so I will just get or set the field so it matches afterwards. So I've created a test for this. I have some, I have the DTO right here. The DTO is the data class. So we're using the Kotlin data class right here. And again, the data class, we have round brackets right here. That is how we define our data class. And here again, we have var. You cannot choose val because then the values cannot be changed. And then the Mapstruct compiler will actually complain about this and say, hey, you cannot change this value. So that's not good. There's no setter. Well, I think there will be something like that. There's no setter for this field. So we have an alien with an ID, a home world, and a name right here. And I have already prepared a test. So let us go to the test. So we have the alien mapper test right here. And we will play a bit more with Spring Boot and Kotlin in some other videos because it's actually quite fun. It's a lot of fun, and it works really, really smooth. So, let us go to a test right here first. So we don't need this part right here. So I'm going to delete that. So I have this. This is a Spring Boot test. I'm wiring in my mapper because I am using the component model equal to Spring. I probably did not need to set that because we already have that in our Gradle file in our build file build.gradle.kts. That part is actually already there, but I like to be explicit actually, so everybody can see that this mapper is actually it actually uses a component model Spring. What does that mean? That means that I don't have to instantiate the interface to the impl class. Spring will actually do that for me. It will put it into the Spring Boot context, and that means that I can map it like this. I can just add auto-wired in my test, and then I will map in my alien mapper right here. Again, you have to set var and not val right here, because to begin with, this will actually be null, and then Spring Boot will inject by setting this value. Right here. So when you're doing your test, you have to use var, not val, and that then gives us a slightly ugly, some ugly code, because then you have these question marks right here, because it could actually be null, right? So that's why you have to use the question mark, and that means that that means actually that Kotlin actually thinks that this could also be null. So the DTO could actually also be null, because if the mapper is null, then you would end up with a null DTO. So it gives a slightly ugly code, just so you know that. But I think it's okay still. So we have this entity right here. I've created a new alien entity, and I did not have to set the type right here. I just like to do that to be explicit, but let us just delete it. And we'll also delete the semicolon in the end. And then we have alien entity, and the ID is just -1. It's just, of course, just to show that this is for testing. So I just chose -1. Home world Earth, and the name is Mike for this alien right here. Is it an alien if it is from Earth? I don't know. It might not be. So we could also choose another world, but we'll do that another day. Feel free to create a pull request on my GitHub repository if you feel like this is that you have a better example right here. Okay, so this is my alien mapper. That I take that right here. That I say, hey, convert that to a DTO instead of a database entity. Then I get my database entity right here. Then I assert that my DTO should not be null. That's the first thing. Then I assert that the ID is equal to the other ID. I assert that my name is equal to the DTO name is equal to the entity name, and I assert that the home world is also the same as the entity home world right here, and that's actually it. Then I can press Control Shift F10, and I can run my test, and of course it will go green. Let's see. Let's see what it says. instantiating. Yes, it's green. Of course, it's green, right? It works. It works. Some warnings. Yes. So that means it actually works. That's quite cool. I could also print it out actually if I want to. The print line, and then we can say Mike DTO. One of the cool thing about these Kotlin data classes is that it gives a really good string representation of the data class. So, and that's also why you don't need Lombok that much. You don't miss Lombok when you're when you're playing around with Kotlin. So here we have it. Alien DTO, ID -1, homeworld Earth, name is Mike. So that is the string representation of this. If you want to see what is behind the magic right here, then you will go and find the impl class. So here we have the alien mapper impl. This class is generated every time you build your project or compile your code. Sometimes then you have to press shift twice, and then you have to find rebuild project, and then you will have to rebuild your project in order to get the latest and greatest implementation class of whatever you're doing. This means that if you're changing your fields on your entity on your DTO, or if you're changing some major things in your mapping, then most of the times it actually compiles it for you. But sometimes if it misses, then you can see this is the old code. Press shift twice and then rebuild the project, and then you will see that the new impl class has been generated by Mapstruct. And of course, it could also be that the reason could also be that you actually have a compile error somewhere that you didn't find. That could also be why you still have the old implementation class right here. So to DTO, let's start with that. So we have this. This is the Java code. You can see right here it generates Java code. Of course, all Kotlin code is converted into class files. And you can also write Java in your Kotlin project, and this is you can see this is just the Java style that we have right here. And so this is a class file, so they're being compiled to the same format, the bytecode, the Java bytecode, the class files. That's also why you can actually mix Groovy and Kotlin and Java in the same project if you want to. I will not recommend this because it actually then makes it then matters which order you are compiling these three different types of languages in. Because if you need something from the Groovy source folder in the Kotlin source folder, of course, then you have to make sure that the Groovy code has been is compiled before the Kotlin code, and of course it could give you problems if suddenly you have Groovy code that references the Kotlin code, and you have Kotlin code that actually references the Groovy code. Then you will have to do multiple compilations in order for this to work, and that's very ugly. Yes, so keep one language per project, even though you can mix them, is my recommendation. So, okay, so here we have it to alien DTO. This is generated code from Mapstruct. It starts to say if the entity is null, then just return null. That's quite smart. Then it says alien DTO. It creates a new DTO right here. Now you can see why we could not use the val. We have to use var. That's because it actually uses the setters. It uses all of the setters right here to set the DTO values right here. And then it uses all of the getters to get the same values from the entity. That's how it works. Cool, right? So don't be shy. Go and look in the generated code every time. Every time you're in doubt of anything on how the Mapstruct actually works. It's quite simple, but it saves you a ton of time regarding the mapping. Let us create one more test just for fun, because we only created the map and alien entity to DTO, but let us also create one that actually maps it to. That map to DTO, map to entity. So map to entity instead. So let's create that test also. And you know that if you want to give it a good name, then you can actually say display name right here. Display name, and you can say map an alien entity to other way around. Map an alien DTO to an entity like this. And then I'll say new. Not say new. Sorry, that we are doing Kotlin. So we will say alien DTO. Let's create a new one. -2 this time in ID, then we can just see there's a difference. And then we say another cool thing I really like with Kotlin is that you can actually say ID equal to -2, and then now I can set the name if I want to. Name again to Mike. Or we can also set Yoda this time, Yoda. And then we can say homeworld equal to Dagobah system. And the cool thing about this now, I'm using the named values instead. Now, so that means that then I can actually give the variables and the parameters in whatever order I want to, because I just set which one is which one I want to set where. I think that's quite cool actually. So then we set val alien DTO, or actually just Yoda DTO right there. And then we can have another one. Then we say val Yoda entity equal to alien mapper, and then we say get to alien entity, and then we give the DTO right here. Yoda. You know what? I'm going to use another name. Robin Hood from Mars instead. So Robin Hood from Mars. Robin Hood is a hero. He is now public domain because it's such an old character, so everybody can use Robin Hood. To alien entity, and I need to use this question mark right here because the alien mapper could, in theory, be null because we are initializing it with null up here, and then to null secure, then we will use this question mark right here. That means that if it's null, then we will actually also set the Yoda entity to null. Okay, so that's done right here. Assertions. And of course we use assert J because it is just better, it's more readable. So we assert that Yoda entity is not null, It's just easier to read, right? And again here actually I did not have to. I have this habit of adding the round brackets, and we don't have to do that in Kotlin, of course. So and then we say copy, and this time we will say name is equal to, and again then we say that would be the Yoda DTO dot ID, and also ID right here, and then we just change this to Robin Hood entity. Yes. Let me just change this to Robin Hood DTO. And question mark right there, it could be null. So duplicate line, and then we say Robin Hood entity name and homeworld should be equal to homeworld and should be equal to name, like this. And then we can actually let us print it out also. Print line, and then we say Robin Hood entity, Robin Hood. But the Robin Hood entity, that it would actually look a bit weird, won't it? It will not look good. Let me just check. We do not have a toString method in this one, so let us just add that toString method. Yes. So now we've all written the toString method ourselves, because we're not using Lombok, or else Lombok could have created this for us. There are a lot of benefits when actually creating these toString and overriding these toString methods yourself, because in this case right here, you will not get an eternal loop. You can't get that with Lombok. If you are referencing an object that again references this object right here, then you will get a toString method that will give you a Stack Overflow exception. So there are actually benefits of actually generating this with real code and creating that yourself. It's quite easy with IntelliJ. You just put your pointer in the end right here, press Alt Insert for generate, or if you have another shortcut for generate code, then it will be right here, and you can say override methods, and then you can choose toString. They actually are also up here in the top. So that's quite cool. Let us just go back right here. Press Ctrl Shift F10 to run this code. And let us see what we end up with. Yes, it's green, and lumpbuck to string, alien entity. Okay, let me just remove that, Then we'll try again. This time I'll place the cursor up here in the top of my test, then I'll press Ctrl Shift F10. It's because I was playing around with lumpbuck, so I actually added the add to string to the entity. And then I also wrote it at the same time. Look here, now we have two cool tests that are actually green. One of them has an ugly name that is equal to the function or the methods, and the other one has this nice display name that I set right here. So now we have the alien entity that looks like this, -2, homeworld Mars, name equal to Robin Hood. I am, as usual, extremely proud of myself. If you want to tell me how good I am, then feel free to use the comment field, below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.